Hello and welcome to PandoraFMS. In today's video, we'll talk about the Proxmox plugin. First, we will briefly describe what Proxmox is, and then we will move on to metric configuration and see what data you may obtain with the plugin's execution. Proxmox is an open source solution developed for virtualization such as VirtualBox, VMware, QEMU, Citrix Sync Server, etc. With this plugin, you may retrieve data through APIs such as Node, metrics, backups, virtual machines, and LXC containers. By obtaining these results, and depending on the type of machine, you will obtain different agents in PandoraFMS with different predefined models. In order to work with this plugin, you must meet a series of prior requirements that are having PandoraFMS data server and plugin server enabled, second one, having an account to log in into Proxmox environment, and download the Bookstore plugin. Once you reach this point, you may perform manual execution tests on the terminal to check the operation. For the plugin's execution, you have a series of parameters that will be useful in the execution. To indicate the Proxmox host and credentials, you have the host, user, password, and port parameters, which will be 8006 by default. In addition, you have other parameters to indicate what type of information you want to collect. These are VM, LXC, backups, and notes, which by default are enabled, so it would only be necessary to indicate them in case you do not want to retrieve data from, for example, virtual machines by setting VM 0. In addition, there are a series of optional parameters for PandoraFMS configuration in case you use, for example, a tentacle port other than 4.11.21, which is the default port, or you want to change PandoraFMS target group to a specific one, etc. Now that you know all about the parameters supported by this plugin, let's proceed with the execution in the terminal. In this case, the first execution indicates the parameter as Discovery Plugin 1 next to the Proxmox credentials to see a summary of the total elements found in the screen output. This mode will be useful for the new Discovery 2.0 plugin system that we will discuss in another video when we have it available. Now we have only used it to see the results directly on the screen. You may try to disable some parameters such as LXC or VM and see how the result changes. If you remove the As Discovery plugin parameter, the result per screen will only be 1 if it is successful or 0 if it failed. In addition, as in the previous case, the data collected will be sent to PandoraFMS server and you will be able to see the agents created after module execution. We will now show the plugin's registration in PandoraFMS console. For that, go to the Servers Plugins section and click Add. At the Registration step, give it a name, in this case Proxmox, and a description if desired. In the Plugin Commands section, indicate the path of the plugin file, and if it is located at the default path of the server plugins, which is usr share pandora_server util plugin, it will only be necessary to indicate the file name. Otherwise, indicate the absolute path. Next, fill in the plugin parameters field. In this section, first indicate the required parameters followed by the values they will take, which will have the field end format. At the end, indicate another field end field that will help you add optional parameters in the execution. In this case, after indicating the main parameters and adding a field for extras, you will have a total of 5 fields, the first 4 being VIP parameters, credentials, and Proxmox port. At the bottom, edit the macro parameter field so that everything is much better configured. Indicate what each parameter will refer to. You may configure the password parameter field as a password to hide the content, give a default value to the port parameter, etc. Once done, click Create and you will then have the plugin registered. To make use of the plugin, create a server plugin module in an agent and configure it to later see the results obtained. Go to Resources, Manage Agents, and select the Module section of the desired agent. Click on Create Module, select Plugin Server Module, and click Create. Give the model a name, select the plugin from the drop-down, and fill in the required fields for its execution. Once finished, click Create and wait for it to be executed, returning 1 if the execution is successful or 0 if it's not, as we discussed previously. When executed successfully, a series of agents will be created in PandoraFMS console with their appropriate modules. You may get into the view of each one of them and see the models created. In this case, it will create VM, LXC, Node, and backup agents. If you go into the agent of a VM, you may find models related to information about the CPU, such as the number of sockets, cores, usage, etc., or disk and memory, seeing its total size, usage, etc. In Node and LXC agents, you may also see a list of models similar to VM agents. And that was it for today's video. Don't forget it. If you liked the video, smile, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe. Any suggestions, questions, or ideas, please leave them in the comments below. Remember that if you're interested in trying PandoraFMS Enterprise, you may contact us to get a free 30-day trial.